Welcome to episode 627, there we go, of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am talking about haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for having me on the network and putting all my shows up there. If you'd like to help out the show, you can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can find books I've written, including my most recent one, over on Amazon. You can also, and it's paranormal fiction and nonfiction. You can also sign up for the Patreon page, where you'll get 2 extra episodes of the show every week, whenever possible, of true paranormal stories from the web. Or you can just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. So I think that takes care of all of that. So yeah, I'm glad to be getting back to this series here. We are on the state of California. We're still in the middle of that. A couple of these next places, definitely this next one we're on now, and 1 or 2 others, I forget now for sure. They're names that I'm pretty sure anyone who's into the paranormal has heard of before. So that may seem weird to kind of talk about them again, but I think it's important just to consider and remember all these places and keep talking about them when we can, and see what else comes up over time and what else we can figure out about them. So this next location I'm going to talk about here is, of course, Alcatraz. And it's Alcatraz Island in San Francisco. It's a former prison, and it's said to be haunted by some of the inmates that passed away there. This first article I'm going to share or talk about here is from legendsofamerica.com. All these links or these articles the links will be shared in the episode description, so you'll be able to check out the articles and all the pictures, of course, that you can't get through audio, that are included in those articles, as well as the full text, which I don't ever read all of it, but I try to read parts here and there, or summarize parts here and there as we go. And please also remember to, whenever you hear about these places I talk about, please go online and check out, make sure that see if they're available to visit in person. Whenever you hear this or after you hear this, always check out what's going on there and make sure it's okay for you to go there and find out when and how and all those things, because I do not recommend trespassing for all kinds of reasons. Safety, first of all, and legal, second of all, and just not that they're in any order there, but yeah, just make sure that you verify that it's okay to go to these places, because these articles, they're written and they're posted, but for there's going to be time that goes by in between whenever that happens and then whenever you decide to go out to one of these places if you want to. So just something I always like to include in these shows. So again, this first article is from Legends of America, and the title reads Alcatraz Island, San Francisco, California, and that's just they just have the location as the name. So it used to be ancient Native American territory there. Apparently, according to this article here, it says it was also once a fort for Alcatraz, as well as a military barracks. And then, of course, the thing that's most well known for is being a prison, a federal penitentiary. And it's often described as a portal, basically, to the paranormal, to other dimensions, that kind of thing. And it's said that the spirits of the place is filled with the energy of those that have passed on, but never quite left completely. So apparently, even from the first people that visited the place, there have been, it says that there have been stories about the island even since when it was first talked about or explored. And in the beginning, Native Americans, during this article here, believed the island to be inhabited by evil spirits. So that was even before the prison. I wonder if there's some kind of a time loop going on there in some way. Not that has to be the explanation, but sometimes I wonder about that with places. And it says that there, as severe punishment for violations of the tribe's laws, people there were sometimes isolated on the island. Other members of the tribes were isolated there, and are even banished for life to live there. So it says today the spirits from all throughout time are said to still be there, and people have had experiences with them, both staff and then people that have just visited the island. There's been sounds of men's voices and screams and whistles, and then clanging metal doors, and so the things like that have been heard in the prison property itself, especially in the worst levels in the dungeon area, is what they call it. So while the island was a federal prison, several guards had paranormal experiences there, including hearing the sounds of crying or sobbing, moaning, and other voice sounds. They've also reported the terrible smells, which is never good as well. They also had reports of something that they called the Thing. It was an entity that was said to appear that had glowing eyes. Other reports were made of the ghosts or spirits of prisoners, but also soldiers that would appear before the guards and the families that would be on the island, that would stay on the island. There's another location of the property known as the Old Warden's Home, and apparently even the warden, one of the wardens there, Johnston, who did not believe in the paranormal, was said to have encountered the unmistakable sounds of a woman crying while the warden was leading several guests on a tour of the place. And of course, these sounds were heard by the guests as well as the warden, and they were coming from inside the walls of the building, the dungeon there. And just as the sound stopped, there was an icy cold wind that blew through the group. Now, of course, that can be written away or written off as things that happen due to drafts and things like that. But there are also reports of air movement and just senses of a presence that are felt as if there was air or someone moving by someone that would cause air to move in that way. So take that as you will, of course. Let me see here. Moving on to the next section here of this article, because I lost my spot. Okay, so I lost my spot. And okay. All right, there we go. Found it. Sorry about that. It says that since the 1940s, apparitions have been seen at the site of the now burned out shell of the warden's house. I'm not sure if it still is that way now, but that's as of when this article was made. Apparently, there was during a Christmas party at the warden's house, several guards told the story of a ghostly man who suddenly appeared in front of them wearing a gray suit, brimmed cap, and having sideburns, mutton chop sideburns. And it says that as the guards stared at the apparition, the room suddenly turned very cold. Again, you have this temperature change, and the fire in the stove was extinguished. Less than a minute after that, the spirit vanished. So you have this apparition or this activity that is then followed by temperature changes, which I would guess would mean a transfer of energy of some kind, and then it stops for the time being. It's been reported often that the old lighthouse will suddenly appear on foggy nights. And then there'd be that, as well as the sound of a whistling sound, basically, and a flashing green light that made its way slowly around the island. So, and I'm not sure if they mean that the actual lighthouse appeared. That's amazing. Sort of like a vision of another time. Reportedly, so apparently, after this happens and people see this, the whole thing vanishes just as quickly as it appears. So it does sound like they're talking about just the entire lighthouse, which I'm wondering if it's not there anymore. But for it to make that kind of, for any beings, any consciousness to make that kind of an image of an entire building appear to people in the area, that really is amazing. Doesn't sound like a time slip exactly. It sounds more like an apparition that is just being made for people to see and then unmade, or they're fading away. Says that when the prison was still open, there were other guards that reported hearing phantom cannon and gunfire, accompanied by screams that were so real that the guards went, or that it basically caused the guards to duck and cover, or to look for shelter, believing that prisoners had somehow had gotten weapons, escaped and gotten weapons. But after taking cover, the guards would look up and look around, but see that nothing had happened. There was nothing there going on. And these were never explained. These incidents were never explained away. So, said that another thing that happened often was that the guards would smell smoke that often came from a deserted laundry room, as if something was on fire. So, but when they went to check it out, the black smoke was so thick, it drove them back. But then just a few minutes later, the room would be completely empty and smoke-free. So that's amazing. You have something that's a smell and a visual, a scent and an image that is so strong that can appear and then vanish, that kept people out of the room when it was happening. But then when they go back in there, there'd be nothing there to show what had caused it. Says that there's one of the most notorious parts of the prison is D block, and it's said to have been, and still is to this day, apparently, as of the article, have been and still is the most active part of the prison as far as paranormal activity goes. It says it was first built the same as other cell blocks, so in the same way, I guess. I'm sorry. So it says, while it was built at first to be the same as the other prison blocks, the Bureau of Prisons appropriated additional money for a more secure D block, so a more securely designed block. And apparently this was in response to the 1939 escape attempt, in which Arthur Barker his nickname Doc, was killed. So it says that D block, which was became known as the treatment unit, was made of 42 cells with different degrees of restrictions. For all the prisoners in that block, there was no contact with the general population. 36 of the cells were virtually like the others in the rest of the prison, but the inmates were not allowed to work or go to the mess hall for meals. They were only allowed one visit to the recreation yard and 2 showers each week, and all meals were served in the cells. It says that their only diversion was reading materials provided by the prison. All these cells apparently faced the Golden Gate Bridge, and the bad thing about that is there would often be fierce cold winds that would come in from that area. One guard that apparently worked in that area was known to turn on the air conditioning to make it even worse for the people that were there, which is terrible. It says that 5 of the remaining 6 cells in the block were known as strip cells, but were often more often reported as referred to as the hole. So just the size, I'm guessing, that's what it means. It was reserved for the most severe offenders of prison rules, and these were located on the bottom tier, the coldest place in the prison, and only had a sink and a toilet and a low wattage light bulb that the guards could turn off. So the prisoners' mattresses were taken away during the day, and they weren't allowed any time in the yard or showers or given any reading materials. So goes into more details about all that, the prison policies there and the practices. There was one last cell that was known as the most severe punishment by the prison. It was basically, sounds like it was a sensory deprivation area. It was just a dark steel encased cell. So then it goes into other details about that. And but inmates that were placed in the cell were basically the ones that I'm guessing had the most terrible or most frequent offenses to the prison there. Let's see here. So looking through the rest of this account here, and they go into a lot more details about sort of how the prison was run in this article that I want to go into here on this show. So you can check that all out when you check out the article yourselves. It says that there was a former guard that worked at the prison in the 1940s. He reported that guards often saw presence of a man dressed in late 1800s prison attire walking the hallway next to the strip cells. So it says that one time when an inmate was locked in the hole, which I guess is one of the cells, he immediately started to scream that someone with glowing eyes was in there with him. It says that the 19th century spectral prisoner has, let's see here, became as much a joke as became as much of a joke basically among the guards that let me see here. I'm not reading that right. So the 19th century spectral prisoner became so much of a practical joke among the guards that the convicts' cries of being attacked were ignored. That's terrible. So let's see here. Apparently, at one point, one of the last times when this happened, and after all these screams and cries were going on, eventually the cell grew silent, or the prisoner grew silent. And then when the guards inspected the cell the next morning, the prisoner in question was found dead with a terrible expression on his face and noticeable handprints around his throat. The autopsy, it says, revealed that the strangulation was not self-inflicted. So that's hopefully that's just a legend, but I don't know. Doesn't really say for sure much beyond that. Let's see here. We have a few minutes left. I think we're only going to have time for this one article. But it says that at the time, many believed the inmate was strangled by a guard who had finally had enough of the screaming. But there was an investigation, but no one ever admitted to this crime. Most people believe that the prisoner was killed by an evil spirit, the evil spirit of this other earlier prisoner, this from a different time, who was often seen wandering the prison. Apparently, when the guards lined up the criminals for a daily count, something odd would happen. They would often find one too many people in their lineup. In other words, they would have all the people that they were supposed to have, and there'd be one extra. And there would always be this extra guy that would appear in the line, and he, as everyone turned to look at him, at this extra man, they would recognize him as being the one that had died in that cell, and he would vanish. So that's quite the apparition there. It says that today, visitors and staff often report cold spots in the hallways, as well as sudden intense feelings, which I can understand, even if you're just talking about residual energy there. So a lot of places are said to have a lot of activity in the prison, even just as far as emotionally charged energies or impressions. Talks more about people that have investigated the place. It says that when authors Richard Weiner, Winer, and Nancy Osborne, who are authors of the book Haunted Houses, made a trip to Alcatraz, they also felt eerie feelings in cell 14D when they entered the cell along with the park ranger. They felt strong vibrations and tingling sensations in their hands and arms. So let's see here. This is a good long article. Let me see here. So maybe we'll just continue this on the next episode here. Do a 2-part with this one article because there's still more left. Plus, I have another article on the location as well. So, I think they'll do that because there's still a lot here, and it's a good deep dive into the location and the place. So, so I'll save the rest of that for the next episode here. But I'm sure a lot of people have seen. Alcatraz has been featured on so many paranormal themed shows over the years. Whether it's just shows that tell that share accounts of experiences, or shows where the people go and investigate it. It's definitely been featured in a lot of places, but I think it's, like I said, it's still important to keep in mind and not to forget it or to write it off just because it is already been so, it's already so well known. But thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsidoparanormal. Take care.